Hello, so 6 months ago roughly I stopped watching the news altogether, and I try and avoid looking at the news. Now and again when there's a story that I hear about from word of mouth that interests me, I'll look into it a bit, but for the most part I don't look at news sites, and this has been a really good thing I think, because news makes you quite paranoid and lots of the journalism involved in it is very bad. So in this video what I wanted to do was go over some of the points that I've seen a lot with the media, and one of the reasons why I try and avoid the news and why I think it's beneficial to do it. So, number one, lots of news is scaremongering, where there's very little factual information, very little in the news stories that benefit you, but the idea is that the news media wants to make you scared, so you keep watching their content, under the illusion that maybe you'll be protected if you know more facts about something, which is very unlikely to be the case. Generally what it is just simple fear-mongering, where they'll pick up even the most minor of stories, massively exaggerate it, and obviously lead you to feel a bit paranoid and whatever else. So fear-mongering, that's the big main thing on the news. Obviously lots of articles and things are very clickbaity, very exaggerated titles. When you read the articles as well, watch the article, it's nothing like the headline, where they've just done a very bad job of representing what the article is in the title to get more people to click and read it. Another thing I've noticed lots of journalists do now, because let's be honest, most modern media people aren't real journalists anymore, what they tend to do is they sort of copy and paste other articles and reword them slightly, and I've seen this on loads of news sites where somewhere will break a story, lots of news media sites copy it and change it ever so slightly so they can't be done for straight up plagiarism. And then what they actually end up doing is it turns out something in that story was false, so obviously all of those articles are wrong. Now, if they were properly investigating a story, you'd think, there wouldn't be many news articles that would report something only to realise it was wrong. So, that's another thing I really don't trust in the news. You might see a news article on lots of sites, but it's very rarely actually true, or, there's false information in all the reports. Another thing is when the media talks to experts on things, and they're obviously not experts at all and they don't really give any useful information. Even worse is when the media actually tries to give you advice, and it's sort of scaremongering information again, or very dodgy information where I guess they thought, oh quick, 5 minutes on Wikipedia to look something up and now we'll give advice on it, when what they give as advice is actually very wrong and not useful. Again, the media sort of exaggerates things, as I was saying, with scaremongering, and they tend to go after very low-hanging fruit with lots of articles. So they go for ones that are very easy to, make clickbaity and stuff like that, rather than actually doing interesting articles that expose things. Now, the thing I did notice recently, and some of my friends that still read the news have told me this, is that what happens a lot of the time is if something really important is happening in the world, often you can go on lots of news sites and it's like right at the bottom of the page they have all this celebrity crap and everything else at the top, and you actually have to scroll down to find real news stories that are affecting real people. With this volcanic eruption in Hawaii, that's another thing I've noticed, that on the UK media, if you actually want to look into this, there's very little information on it. Despite it being quite a big and serious event, they'd rather talk about the royal wedding or celebrity stuff, or something that's really not important at all, taking up lots more of the space. So there's always that as well. So all in all, I've generally found with the media that there's very little redeeming features of it in news media. Now, there are alternative news sources that are very good, but I'll let you work out for yourselves what they are, because I don't want to really recommend anything, especially if certain people wouldn't like it, that's good. But in general, I really don't miss reading news media at all, because I find that through word of mouth you kind of find out things about important events anyway, but actually, you're not being pulled into all this scaremongering and whatever else and clickbaity nonsense, because obviously a lot of news sites have adverts running on them, and the point is they want you to spend as long on their website as possible, so they make it so you have to click through loads of stuff to actually find the stuff you want anyway. So I know you could say, oh, you're using an ad blocker so that wouldn't affect it, but you know what I mean, there's lots of stuff on there like that. And again, lots of things with journalist integrity. Can you really trust some of the journalists, especially when they've got funny relationships with certain people where what do they benefit from writing a smear article on somebody and things like that. So yeah, overall I do not look back at all at not watching the news now. I find I'm just as informed on important events going on without reading a news site, but I'm not being pulled into all this clickbaity scaremongering nonsense. And, you know, with lots of important news stories, you can find very good YouTube channels, and as I said, I won't mention them in this video, but I'm sure people can find ones if they want to look hard enough, where there are people that, you know, pick apart news stories and see what the real information is and stuff like that, where, you know, they're longer videos, but you get a lot more out of watching things like that than you do watching a 5-minute report on something where it's meant to be as shocking and scaremongering as possible. So, yep, no regrets since I stopped watching the news. I'd recommend everybody else do the same, actually. And then, if you want to find something out, you know, there are certain YouTube channels you'll be able to find where people do a very good job, for the most part, of, you know, dissecting the news and seeing what is and what isn't, you know, BS about it.